friends in COLIN. What are you passionate about? Passionate.
The Passion Show on CFRU 93.3 FM Guelph, Ontario. With Wizard.
I'm a water wizard, Harry.
With
Hello world, you are listening to The Passion Show with Wizard on CFRU 93.3 FM. It's a do-it-together radio show all about passions and the people who have them. My name is Wizard.
And my name is Colin.
Woo! Colin. Colin Farrell, Colin Mockery, Colin now, Colin later. What's up, buddy?
I'm here to talk about my passion, the weather.
Yes, we're getting right into it. The weather. You have some notes today.
I do have a list of notes. Hopefully it'll be long enough for this session.
I will have some questions for you. So I think it'll definitely be long enough no matter what. And you know what? If it's not enough notes for the session, we'll just have to chat. We'll talk about how I know you, how you know me, about your life. But we'll get to that. You clearly want to get right into it. That's fine by me.
My first note is saying clouds are beautiful and always different. They're always around us. They're always unique depending on atmospheric conditions, like how much instability or moisture there is in the air. And they're so different and often very beautiful. Like today we saw, or
saw. I didn't see it.
Me and Nava,
past and future guest, friend of the show, Nava.
We saw a fire rainbow. It was in a cirrus cloud high up in the atmosphere. And there's like little ice crystals in the clouds, and they kind of bend and refract the sunlight and create a rainbow effect, but it's a bit different with the cirrus clouds, and they kind of bend it up and make it all wavy and fire-like.
This sounds amazing. I really wish I saw the fire rainbow. I was distracted. I was wrangling kids at the back of the group. But it's fine. I've seen lots of cool clouds. Did you know that at outdoor school we have a Slack channel that's like a computer message thing dedicated to just sending each other pictures of clouds?
I haven't heard about a dedicated channel just for clouds.
It's true. Me and Matt Hamilton started it years ago.
I've heard little rumors about, you should see on Slack, there's this guy posted this picture and said this, but I've never really seen it or knew about it.
That's hilarious. You've heard little whispers about Slack, but now you know. Slack is just like it's like an online forum software, and it lets us like organize as outdoor school staff, and we can make, it's sort of like a big house with little rooms in it, but you can make a room whenever you want, unlike a real house. So most of our rooms are for real tangible things. There's one for the like health and safety, there's one for maintenance, there's one for pictures, but we can make our own rooms in the house. We made a room just for clouds, which I think is great. We also have a room for insects and spiders and snakes and all kinds of stuff. Art and creativity. The Davy boy is always sending stuff to that one, and Matt. But yeah, now you know about what Slack is. But aren't clouds amazing? What's your favorite kind of cloud?
I couldn't choose, but
Of course. Why would I even ask a question like that's like choosing your favorite kid?
I think the most amazing and interesting clouds are big thunderstorms. Like
Mm-hmm.
their special name or scientific name is cumulonimbus,
Oh yeah.
and that comes from two Latin words.
Mm-hmm.
Cumulo is part of the word cumulus, which is like a word for heap or pile, and
Like accumulate. I bet you that there's the same. Whoa. Okay, that's amazing.
and if you look at one, look at one from the side. If you're directly under it in the rain, you won't be able to see anything.
Mm-hmm.
But from the side, it's all puffy, and the nimbus part
Uh-huh.
comes from rain. That's what nimbus means.
Huh.
And you put those together, cumulonimbus, big puffy, rainy.
Big puffy pile of rain. Yeah, those clouds are amazing. I think that when I realized that I love clouds, and on the Passion Show, I often end the show by saying I'm grateful for wind and clouds in like 90% of the episodes. And so I'm a real cloud enjoyer. I think I remember when I realized how much I love clouds. I was at Camp Celtic, the summer camp I worked at before I worked at outdoor school. And I was floating in Stokes Bay where we would swim. And I was way out far. I wasn't really doing my job. I was near some kids, but I was mostly just trying to have a moment of peace. And I was looking up at the sky, and we were surrounded in this bay by cumulonimbus clouds. But it wasn't rainy where we were. It was just a very cloudy day. And I realized when I was floating there that if you sort of just adjust your perception a little bit, you can imagine that cumulonimbus clouds in the distance were closer and that they were like mountains. Do you know what I'm saying?
They are like mountains.
So yeah, exactly.
They go up from so there's layers of the atmosphere. There's the lowest layer where all the weather happens, the troposphere, and then the stratosphere, mesosphere, thermosphere. But the real interesting one is the troposphere. That's where all the weather happens.
Do you remember off the top of your head how high above the surface that is?
Which
The
part?
troposphere.
It can vary a lot
Mm-hmm.
depending where you are and what day it is, maybe. But it's usually around 10, 12, or 15 kilometers.
Wow.
Like the
It's hard to even just imagine that. What that's like, how high up that is.
And cumulonimbus clouds or thunderstorms, they often stretch from the lowest level where clouds form, and they go right to the top, to the tropopause or the stratosphere.
That's amazing.
So really tall.
Mm-hmm. And when I was laying there floating, looking at these things, I realized this must be Mount Olympus. You know what I'm saying? I was thinking, it struck me like lightning. I was like, when people look at clouds like this, and you don't know the modern day science of clouds, even if you do know the modern day science of clouds, how do you not imagine something being up there, people living up there? How do you not see this as a solid marble? And that's when it hit me, the scale of clouds and how lucky we are that we have this like absolutely huge, unique artwork to look at every day we go outside, that we're lucky enough to have clouds in the sky. So that's my cloud origin story. Do you have anything like that? Any time you can remember?
A while ago, it was last summer,
Okay.
2025. I think it was in August.
I'm in my memory palace right now. August 2025.
I was sitting at home, and recently I think I got a barometer.
Okay.
So a barometer measures the pressure, and when it goes down, that usually means rain or precipitation is on the way. So it
Low
went,
pressure system. When people talk about that, that's what they mean.
yeah,
Okay.
extra tropical cyclones and stuff.
Uh-huh.
But what happened later that day, there was this little bit of darkness in the west.
Uh-huh.
And then it started to get bigger and bigger and darker. And then I looked outside, and it felt like night, even though it was still like 7 o'clock in the summer, which is pretty bright. And if you looked at the storm, you could see this massive, ominous shelf cloud. And underneath it was just darkness. And if you sat there long enough, you could see it moving towards you.
Oh, man. In the distance. That's
And
awesome.
I went behind my house in this little park to watch it, and it got closer and closer, and eventually it overtook me, and I was directly under it. And if you don't know how shelf clouds form,
I don't. Enlighten me.
they're from the downdraft of a storm, or mostly from the precipitation. And the precipitation brings air down, really cold air, and
That
then
makes sense.
it pushes up the warm, wetter air, and then that air condenses, and that forms the shelf cloud. But because there's this massive downdraft of air, this creates this really scary thing called the gust front. And usually when you're near the shelf cloud, you'll get hit with this sometimes super strong gusty winds of cold air.
Awesome.
And then I
just got shivers just thinking about it. I love wind.
And 1 to 3 minutes later, you just get hit with super heavy rain.
Okay. So it smacks you with the wind, and then bam! There's the rain follow up. Pow, pow! So that's that. Seeing this, watching this entire shelf cloud advance, that was like a real moment for you, eh? Last summer. Did I ever tell you about my tornado story?
I think you did. It was in Saskatchewan.
Yeah. When I was probably 7 or 8 years old, a tornado came through, and the part of Saskatchewan I was in is the very southern end of Saskatchewan, which is still pretty significantly north of Tornado Alley, but close enough that tornadoes were a thing that happened there. And it was in the summer, and I was at a swim meet. I used to do speed swimming when I was a little kid. And just like you said, it went from being bright out to being like night, like that. And my mom was smart. She was ahead of it. She grabbed me and my sister, took us out to the car. By the time we got from being in the pool to dried off and in the car, probably only like 10 or 15 minutes, it's already, the wind is gale force, whatever that means. I don't know. What is gale force?
The first thing I think of is, so there was this, I think this was a French person.
Uh-huh.
They had the last name Buford,
Okay.
and they
I thought you were
created,
going to say Gale.
they created this scale called the Buford scale, and
Okay.
it has like different names for the severity of winds. Like
Mhm.
level 1 is just calm breeze, level 2 is normal breeze.
wind. Okay.
And then eventually, like at level 6 or something, there would be gale or near gale.
Uh-huh.
And then, like, level 8 or so is hurricane force.
Mm-hmm. I think I've seen this scale recently because I was looking at the outdoor school high wind policy. It's been my job to go through these policies. And I thought it was funny that our scale went all the way up to hurricane. It's like, okay, level hurricane, closed program. A level tornado, closed program. Like, yeah, that makes sense to me. I'm not trying to run outdoor school in a hurricane. But my sister and I are out in the van to finish the story. And my mom realizes that she forgot something in the community center with the swimming pool. She forgot a travel mug that had pictures of my sister and I inside the mug. It was like a novelty thing. And she was like, I have to go back in there and get it. And my sister and I are saying, no, Mom, you don't have to do that. She's probably in and out of there in 2 minutes. But my sister and I were like, we're going to get sucked up by a tornado and die. Very funny. But she gets out, of course, and drives us home. And we get down in the basement, and probably 10 minutes later, the tornado comes right past our town. Didn't come through town, just past our town. And I'll never forget how loud it was. It was like being in the inside of a drying machine. And probably felt like being in the inside of a drying machine too if you were outside. And then when it stopped, nothing. Total silence. So surreal. We go outside, the sky is green. Still don't know why. And there are massive hailstones on the ground. It's the middle of summer. And the hailstones were all completely gone 3 minutes later. And I just vividly remember walking onto this, the most bizarre vibes ever, the green in the sky, and looking around on our street, and there's like every single house has, 3 or 4 people outside of it, because everyone is together just like witnessing the awe of this natural destruction. And trees were down everywhere too. I think our front yard tree was destroyed. That's my tornado story. So what do you got next on your notes there?
Let's see. This note is just titled Feelings. What clouds make you feel?
That's a good note.
I think it was to be in reference with like the incoming shelf cloud and thunderstorms, seeing this ominous wall of wind and rain coming towards you.
Mm-hmm.
I read in a book someone said, no matter what, when a thunderstorm is coming or impacting you, you always feel something like you don't just ignore it. Either you see it and say, oh, it's raining outside, or oh, my car's getting all dented from the hail, or maybe, is that a funnel cloud on the horizon? So no matter what, it always makes you feel something.
I love the feeling of rain. And I'm just snug like a bug in a rug in my house. Or I'm at outdoor school with all you guys. We have to hide out underneath a tarp. So good. How else do clouds make you feel?
They make me feel special that I can just look out in the sky and see a new picture of artwork every day.
Mm-hmm.
Like, today there's these long, streaky cirrus clouds.
Cirrus, those are cirrus clouds. That's what I thought. What do So I know that you've been studying a little bit of how to predict weather just with the clouds. What do the cirrus clouds mean?
It can vary on the type, but usually those long, streaky ones with the tails,
Mm-hmm.
usually if they're in the west, they can indicate a warm front is coming, or like maybe light rain is coming in maybe the next day. I haven't figured out why they indicate a warm front is coming yet, but my theory is that so clouds need usually two things. They need moisture and some sort of lift.
Okay.
And whenever I look in books, they always depict warm fronts as the warm air masses like climbing over the cold air mass. That's what a warm front is. And usually the warm air mass is a lot like slanted over it. So it's like reaching way over the cold air mass, kind of. So I guess when it would finally arrive, it would be like kind of a slanted wave coming towards you. So first, the day before, you would see like the high level cirrus clouds, because maybe the warm air is up there, but
I see what you're
it's
getting
not
now.
down there where you are. That's what I'm thinking so far.
Yeah, that's funny. I got to a similar conclusion when I've thought about this, but with much less scientific basis. I always tell people, when I point at the cirrus clouds and say, you always see those before rain, and they ask me why, I say, I think it's because in the high part of the atmosphere, the air that's moving really quickly up there, and that is bringing us rain. But it sounds like you have an actual reason as to why that is, because of the slant. That's so interesting. What are some other kinds of clouds? Or what were you thinking? You were thinking something there. What were you going to say?
The high winds is what causes those wispy streaks.
Exactly. I love cirrus clouds. I think cirrus clouds are so beautiful. But we've talked about cirrus clouds now, and we've talked about cumulonimbus. What are some other kinds of clouds?
Usually they're categorized as 3 levels of clouds. There's low level clouds like stratus clouds, and then there's
Mm-hmm.
like mid-level clouds like altocumulus that make those really pretty sunsets.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's high-level clouds like just cirrus clouds.
Mm-hmm. What does the alto mean in altocumulus?
I'm not exactly sure, but I think I read somewhere that it's supposed to mean high or tall, which doesn't really make sense since it's the mid layer.
Mm-hmm.
But
Because that is what alto means in music, I'm pretty sure. Like an alto saxophone is like a higher saxophone than a baritone, or a singer, like an alto singer. But I don't know. Because they're not the highest cloud. But then again, an alto also isn't the highest instrument. Like, I'm pretty sure there are pitches higher than an alto. Like, I forget. Like a soprano. A soprano is higher than an alto, I think. Have you ever heard of this? You know what I'm talking about?
a little bit.
Like a baritone is the lowest, and then a tenor. And I guess that probably comes from a Latin root. I mean, it must. That's interesting. All right, what do you got next on your notes there?
I've got 3 different words.
3?
It's 4 words, but it's 3 different kind of topics.
Okay, gotcha.
I want to talk about severe weather and hail and the big, scary rotating columns of air. The tornadoes.
Yes. I want to hear what you have to say about all 3 of these things.
I don't know where to begin. Maybe with hail?
Yeah. Tell me about hail. How does hail occur? It's a crazy thing now that water is able to freeze all the way into ice before it even hits the ground.
So, I don't think I've ever experienced hail, but I do know how it forms.
I'll tell you, I have experienced, as a Saskatchewan boy, I've experienced plenty of hail in my life. It's crazy. It hurts.
So, hail can only really form from big thunderstorms, big severe thunderstorms usually, and it's where a little frozen bit of water gets caught in the storm's updraft, and then that kind of flies around through this hail growth zone, which is a temperature area from like -10 or no, the freezing level to about -30.
Mm-hmm.
That's where little frozen ice pellets can collect super cooled water droplets, and those droplets form or freeze onto the hailstone, and it just gets bigger and bigger.
Like a snowball rolling down a hill.
Yeah, and the reason they can't really grow above -30 is because water needs like an ice nucleus to start growing ice crystals, so they'll need like maybe a little piece of dust or some other aerosol or pollutant to grow on. But past the -30 point, they just they give up and get angry and they just spontaneously freeze. And then they can't really freeze onto the hailstone. Maybe they just bounce off.
Uh-huh.
And then
The
eventually...
water needs to be able to glomp on before it freezes. That makes sense to me.
And eventually the hailstone gets tossed out of the updraft, or it gets too heavy to be supported by it, and then it falls down and literally falls down from the sky onto your car.
Onto my Wizzy wagon. Onto my Wizard mobile. Smashes a hole in the windshield. It happens. Yeah, Hill, you should take yourself on a trip to the Great Plains someday. Go out to Western Canada. And the States has some great weather spots like this too. And chase yourself some hailstorms. You'll see a tornado.
I've been kind of preparing for that a bit.
Really? Awesome.
I've learned I'm trying to learn as much as I can. I think I'm getting to the point where I'd be competent enough, but I still can't chase even if I wanted to because I don't have a driver's license.
Oh, what? You gotta take yourself down to Service Ontario. Do it the test. It's not so hard.
And I don't really think the best storm chasing vehicle would be a bicycle.
Yeah, probably not. You want one of those like armored trucks like they got in the movie Twister. That's what you want with all the equipment and satellites and stuff. A little bicycle kitted out with that would probably look awesome. But yeah, you're building up to it. That's a great thing.
Or like you turn into that one old lady in The Wizard of Oz.
Oh yeah? Like
doesn't that old lady appear in a scene where she's biking in the tornado?
That's right. Oh man, that's a great scene. How did they do that? You know that movie was made in the 1930s? And they were doing amazing special effects like that. They made a whole tornado just for one scene. Like, I couldn't make a tornado if I tried. Couldn't even make a tornado for a half a scene. But, yeah, that's Margaret Hamilton in that movie. Was a trooper. Great actress. Anyways, Hale. Yeah, Hale's great. Do you have any other thoughts about Hale? Or teachings? Thoughts or teachings?
I don't think so, but I'd like to experience it one day.
You will. I know you will.
Hopefully I won't go, ooh, there's a big, beautiful hailstone. I'll go run out there and put it into my freezer so I can take pictures of it later. And then get clobbered in the head by a bigger hailstone.
Knocked it totally unconscious and then they're all gone. They all just melt away in the grass. Well, hopefully that doesn't happen. Can you tell me about those scary cylinders that you're talking about? You know, I have an emotional connection to the scary cylinder, having had a transformative childhood experience with one.
What do you want to begin with the scary columns of air?
Column, that's right. Column, cylinder. How did they form?
There's not really an globally agreed on truth about them, I don't think, but there's one fear, which is probably the correct
Okay.
way they form.
Well, I've never heard, whatever you're about to say, I've never heard even a little. I remember what they said about tornadoes when I was a kid. That was a long time ago. So, yes, tell me.
So I won't right now get into all the specific conditions and mechanisms behind the storm, but it's under a thunderstorm, it needs this one ingredient called wind shear.
Wind shear?
Yep.
Okay.
And it's like, there's two kinds of it. There's directional shear and speed shear.
Uh-huh.
So it's basically just like different winds interacting with each other. So if there's a really strong wind above this weak wind,
Mm-hmm.
it'll create vorticity
Mm-hmm.
or rotation, and then the storm's really powerful updraft will take that like horizontal column of air and it'll stretch it upward into the storm, and that's how I think tornadoes form.
Huh. Tornadoes. Have you ever seen the movie Twister?
Probably a long time ago.
It's a good one. It came out in the early 2000s or late 90s. And then they made a sequel called Twisters with an S. It came out a few years ago.
I did watch that one kind of recently.
Yeah. I never saw it. Had Glenn Powell in it. He's a good actor. But I never saw it. I missed it. I think it did good at the box office, though. People like tornadoes because they're big and scary and awesome. Do you have any other wisdom to share about tornadoes?
I guess I can share this kind of ominous message that
Oh, please. I love ominous messages.
this message I shared with another friend, and she thought it was totally true
Okay,
and
okay.
not just from a crazy person. I feel like this year something bad's gonna happen to this area. I just have a feeling.
Okay. Weren't you whispering that in the ear of Nava today?
Yep, and Davey.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Davey loves when you whisper ominous stuff in his ear. He's his favorite. The Davey boy. Friend of the show. Future guest. Not past guest. Fingers crossed. But you think there's something's bad gonna happen to this area, right? What do you think? What do you figure?
Pretty extremely unlikely, but I feel like something's gonna happen in the Guelph, Kitchener, Cambridge area. Is that like
the Quad City area?
The Tri-City area?
But isn't Guelph not part of the Tri-City area? Isn't that Cambridge, Waterloo, and
well, it
Kitchener?
Can be. It's better than the other cities, probably.
You know what? You're right. We're kicking out Kitchener. It's the Waterloo, Cambridge, Guelph area now. Anyway, so you think a disaster is coming to this area?
It's just a feeling. It's probably not gonna happen.
Yeah.
But, just remember to have your safety plan,
Mm-hmm.
when you hear about maybe a tornado watch, take the medical supplies and snacks and flashlight and other stuff into a sturdy place, like maybe a basement closet or an interior room.
Okay.
Be aware about the weather.
You know, I live in an upstairs apartment with no interior rooms. Every room in my home has a window. What should I do?
In a
Tornado warning. The siren's going off. What do I do?
in an apartment building.
It's like a big house with like 6 apartments in it.
Okay.
So I can just walk right down the stairs and be out my door.
I feel like the best thing you could do is maybe like talk to someone or yell at someone, hey, I need to go to your basement, and hopefully there is a basement, and then I hope that they would let you into the basement.
Fingers crossed.
It would be kind of crazy if they didn't. And you just hide down there, but if you couldn't because they were really mean or something,
Not a good neighbor.
then try to get on the lowest floor you can go and go into an interior room and put on good shoes and take supplies with you. Put on like a bike helmet or something.
I do have a bike helmet. Okay. And I have good shoes as well. This is good. This is actionable advice. It's tangible. Well, here's to hoping that Guelph doesn't get hit by a tornado. It seems pretty unlikely.
It's very unlikely.
Okay. That's
But
good to know.
every year there's like, I think about 50 tornadoes hit Canada or maybe southern Ontario.
Uh-huh.
So every year there's definitely at least one tornado in the backyard of southern Ontario.
That's amazing. And
that could be this area.
it could
this
be this year. Well, you heard it here first, folks. Hold your loved ones close. Prepare your emergency readiness bag because this could be the year. This could be there. It could be a tornado. Maybe it's an earthquake. Maybe it's a whole 2012 situation. Maybe the poles shift just in Guelph or in the Tri-City area. You ever heard about this, Colin? The whole 2012 apocalypse?
Nope.
When I was a kid,
I was 1 year old at that time.
and I was chilling in high school, and there's this thing, the Mayan calendar ended in the year 2012. And some people thought that it was a prophecy from the ancient Mayan civilization that all of the whole world would end, and that the North Pole and the South Pole of Earth would swap, and it would cause global destruction. And they made a whole movie about it, but it never happened. But that would be a fun one for you to watch. You should check that out. It's a real disaster movie.
Hopefully that same scenario happens this year where nothing actually happens.
Yeah, maybe there should be a 2012, but nothing. The poles switch and it just doesn't matter. Shouts to Roland Emmerich. That's the director of 2012. He made a bunch of disaster movies like that. And a lot of them are bad, and I've never seen one through all the way to the end. I love movies. So, okay, I have a question for you about tornadoes. What's the deal with Tornado Alley?
What about it?
How does it work? Why is that spot so good for tornadoes? Do you know?
What I'm thinking right now is in that area,
Mm-hmm.
it has good access to the Gulf of Mexico, which brings lots of good moisture to the middle plains in that area, and it also has access to colder air from the north, and everybody's saying, like, to their kids, like, how do tornadoes form? And my mom or dad said it's from, I think this is what they said. They said cold, dry air and warm, moist air kind of move together.
That was definitely the line when I was a kid. That's what they told me.
And they get angry at each other and swirl up. But it is kind of true about those air masses. So you need warm, moist air from the Gulf of Mexico, and then the importance of the cold air from the north is, I think the importance is it creates a cold front, which is where colder, denser air undercuts, like moves under a warm air mass, and it kind of lifts up the warm air mass, and that creates lift.
Helps to create the wind shear effect too. Is that part of that?
Maybe, but it initiates thunderstorms. And then if there's enough instability and all the other things like that, then it can turn into a severe thunderstorm, and if there's enough wind shear, it can turn into the big word, the evil thunderstorm, the supercell. And
the supercell. What's a supercell?
It's a thunderstorm that has enough wind shear. They love wind shear. And the wind shear tilts the updraft away from the downdraft. So it makes sense, or an updraft is like the heart of the storm, and in weaker storms without wind shear, they'll rain into their updraft, and then the downdraft and updraft makes an up and down together that just messes everything up, and it chokes itself out. And in some storms, the updraft tilts, or the downdraft tilts away from the updraft, so that doesn't happen. And in a supercell, if there's enough wind shear in like the mid and low levels, it'll develop what's called as a mesocyclone, which is like kind of its own low pressure system, because spin creates low pressure, and if you watch a mesocyclone, it'll spin, and if there's enough low level wind shear, that creates the vorticity in the updraft, shapes it and tilts it into a tornado.
Wow. It's like a recipe for baking a cake. That's amazing. Now you know how all these things add together. It's like chemistry. I mean, I guess it is chemistry. Sorta. It's like chemistry on a much larger scale than we're used to.
It's a lot of thermodynamics.
Which is I guess it's all connected, right? Science is one big whirl. We're almost at the end of the show, Colin. we've been recording for 50 minutes. Can you believe that? So we've got about another 5 minutes that we can talk about whatever, and then we start gratitude, and then we're donesies. So do you have any final notes on there? Any big things you want to share?
The second last thing on the list is called Tricks of Light, but I feel like we kind of covered that a little, but do you have any other stories or experiences?
Mm-hmm. Tricks of light, you mean like when we talked about the fire
Yeah,
rainbow?
and rainbows and halos.
Mm-hmm. I've seen about a month ago, I saw a sundog, 2 sundogs on the way to outdoor school. Do you know what a sundog is?
I do, but I'm not really good at tricks of light and how light works.
Yeah, that's confusing. It's sort of a different realm of scientific study than the thermodynamics of weather systems. And I'm not sure how sundogs work either, but for our listeners, our dear listeners at home, if you were wondering, Colin, the listeners are sitting in that chair right there. You can imagine that. That's a traditional part of the Passion Show. So we imagine when we're directly addressing the listeners, that's where they are. A sundog is like a big pillar of light that like erupts out of the ground, like a tornado, or not like a tornado, like a rainbow, and it happens. Usually there are 2. When you see a sundog, there will be 2 sundogs on either side of the sun, usually in the around sun up or sundown, and they look like these huge pillars of rainbow, and it's because they're part of you can imagine a massive circle around the sun, and the only part that we see is right on the ground, and it happens only when in super cold temperature, and I think it's something to do with the snow, but I'm not entirely sure. You can also see sundogs when you're flying in airplanes. If the sun is sort of like obscured by clouds, you can sometimes see a rainbow going all the way around the sun. So that's what I know about sundogs.
Yeah, I've seen at outdoor school, we've seen a couple sun halos recently.
Mm-hmm.
We saw a sun halo, and we also saw this other trick of the light from the sun. You might have been, no, you weren't there. Matt Hamilton was there.
Oh, it sounds like a Friday Woodchuck situation.
It was, and Nava was there.
Oh,
we were looking at
so fun.
We were looking at the sun.
Nice. I love telling kids to look at the sun. Like, look at that.
And
sun.
We did tell them to look at the sun.
Yeah.
Because there was this undulating or wavy cirrus cloud over the sun, and then we called it a rainbow cloud, and we still don't really know what happens. And
that's awesome.
It just looked like oil on water, like dirty oil, like that. Whoa, rainbow
like
color.
A shimmering. Okay.
It was in the cloud, and the cloud turned into like a duck shape and then a bird shape.
This sounds awesome. This is the kind of thing that happens at outdoor school on Friday. The one day I'm on admin. All the fun stuff. Colin, we're pretty much at the end of the show. Before we do our gratitude, I realized that we started talking about weather, and we've been talking about weather for the solid hour. Do you want to introduce yourself a little? Who are you?
I am, I'm Colin from Guelph Outdoor School.
There you go. Colin's one of my students. Colin's been my student at outdoor school for years, multiple years. If not my student, then just like a student. And me and Colin have had a storied history together. One time he showed me a leaf and I ate it. Just, I don't know why, I just got a demon in me. And then me and Colin didn't even look each other in the eyes for a solid month after that. But then we healed our friendship and now we're here. Colin looks visibly upset just remembering this. I apologize. I'm sorry.
I got over it.
What a funny, horrible thing. It was a dark time in my life. Anyways, we're at the end of the show, Colin. Thank you so much for sharing this time with me on the Passion Show. I'm so excited for people to listen to your expertise. It's a tradition on the end of the Passion Show that we share gratitude, just like at Guelph Outdoor School. And I will go first, and that way you can go second, which means that you get to end the show. That's the tradition. So I will say I am grateful for the wind. I'm grateful for clouds. I'm grateful for weather. Grateful for outdoor school that I get to meet amazing students like you. And grateful to be alive. What are you grateful for?
I'm grateful that I can be in a world with amazing clouds, and I'm very grateful for those clouds in the sky, and I'm grateful that I can go twice a week to an amazing school in the forest, surrounded by cedar trees mostly. And I think that's about it.
Beautiful. Well, I've been Wizard.
I am Colin.
And only love will stop the killing.
Only love will stop the killing.
Seul l'amour arrêtera le meurtre.
Only love.
Тільки кохання зупинить вбивство.
Only love.
Only love.
Nur die Liebe wird das Töten beenden.
Only love will stop the killing.
Only love.
Μόνο η αγάπη θα σταματήσει τον φόνο.
Only love. Only love.
Only